Hey, Mark.
Hello.
Hey, it's the Midnight Society. That's right. That's right.
Hello.
Welcome to the Sunday.
Hey everyone.
Uh I'm Patrick. I'm fighting off a cold. Of course, we have the mighty Professor with us, and we have Katie from Popping the Popcorn. And welcome to the society. Um, we are doing something a little different today, right? I mean, you know, the Action April was supposed to be action packed, like "Rrr." But we got action on a different level tonight, I think. Hello, Sad.
Hi,
Glad you're
Sad.
here.
Hi, Sad.
Um, yeah, this is a different kind of action movie. And there definitely is some horror in here. Definitely, there was some horror in here too. Um, so we are talking about Ray Bradbury's Fahrenheit 451 that has been made into two films. One came out in
There you go.
1966. That's the one we're going to be talking about today. The one from 1966, and then we're going to be talking about. There's also one that came out in 2018 that did not do as well because, from what we heard, is that they got away from the source material.
Hey,
And
Aunt.
people did not really rise to the occasion. Hi, hey, it's Ant Review Things. All
Hey,
right.
Echo. Hey, Aunt.
So a different type of discussion tonight. Still has some action in it. There's some other movies along the line that bring to mind this movie. Like you can definitely tell that they have to pay homage to it. And of course, the first movie I can think of right off the bat is Equilibrium.
Yes.
Equilibrium is
Yes.
definitely it owes everything to Fahrenheit 451. So there's that. There's
Another
also-
one that very, very, very came to mind when I was watching is one that both of you actually already talked about, V for Vendetta. V for Vendetta
Yes.
also reminded me a lot about this movie as I was watching it.
Logan's Run also very much.
Mhm.
Yes, very much. Yes. Slasher Fred says this movie is a soft version of the Holocaust. Yes.
Yes.
I totally agree with that.
Hi, Rob.
And the thing about it is, though, it's like you think a movie like today, 1966, so over a 50 years old movie, and yet you watch it today. And I got to be honest with you, I gotta ask you guys this: when you were watching this film, did you get a cold feeling in your stomach? Did you feel like chills going up your spine when you were watching this,
Yeah.
despite it being a 53, 54-year-old movie?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that is very timely, given the situation with books nowadays and what they're going through. So yeah, I
I
felt
think
like
this
it's a
is
cautionary tale. I would call this one.
here in
Yeah.
Florida. It's one of the banned books. You're not allowed to read this book anymore or anything like that. So they don't even know. The kids in Florida don't even know about this movie or the book or anything because they're not allowed. It's banned.
Our history is being rewritten. It's in some cases it's being whitewashed out. Teachers are now being put on trial. They could go on trial. They could be charged criminally and or lose their license if they teach subjects that the state does not want. And I say the state does not want you to teach.
Yeah.
Of course, this is happening. This is happening in Texas. This is happening in Iowa. This is happening in Kansas.
And
Uh,
Florida. Florida is one of those
in
states. Too.
Florida.
I
And
actually asked Patrick this the last treatment since you're here, Katie. I would ask you. I read it on the internet, so I take everything I read from the internet with a grain of salt. But I read they were passing a bill that would allow, if just one single parent, one solitary parent, made a complaint, they can remove a book from the library. So did that go through? Is that
Yes, that is true. In the state of Florida, if one parent says something about a book, they can remove it from the public library and also the school libraries.
Ooh.
Wow, looks like we got a few people here for this. It looks like we might have touched a nerve here, which I really hope that is the case, because
Yeah.
we are going to talk about the film, but we got to talk about we need to talk about how it applies in today's society, because this is like V for Vendetta. What we're seeing here is absolutely terrifying. We are repeating our history, except that it's not in Germany; it's here in America. And a movie
Yeah.
like this, even though it's 57 years old, it still has a punch. It's still now before, instead of looking at it saying it's an old movie, it's from the 60s. Now we look at a movie like this and we see it more like a warning bell, ringing, like calling to arms, basically. Um, it's really something else. I never would have thought here in America that we would actually see books being banned. Over 7,500 books that I know that have been.
Especially not again. I mean, in the early years of history, that happened a lot. They would burn books willy nilly. Well, I would have thought that as a society, as a species, we would have evolved beyond that. But I guess we take the 2 step forwards and then like 5 or 10 back, and we
Mhm.
just mess up a whole bunch of stuff.
And
Yep.
here's the funny thing about it too. You know, this is not the first time. Maybe some of you might remember this. Maybe the professor. I think Katie, you were too young for this, but this is not the first time this has happened for a medium, an expressive medium. This
No, I've
happened a
heard
lot.
about it, but I was born in the '80s, so I'm a millennial here. So I
Uh,
probably I probably wasn't born then, but
uh, in the 70s, 1970s, there used to be record burning parties from the right wing, of course.
I heard about it,
They
but
would
I
burn.
just wasn't
They
born
burned Kiss albums. They burned any record, any record that had so-called satanic implementations into it. They were burned. They held it, and we still see that today. We still see it. We're on a smaller level, but we do still, But it's funny. It's like I'm watching this. They're burning their Kiss records and everything else, and they pay good money for them. And they're being driven by fear. They're being manipulated by fake preachers, and to burn, and to destroy. Um, and of course, this was the same thing with the Fahrenheit 451. They're burning the books. They're burning the books. They're
then.
suppressing free thought. They're suppressing
Yep.
knowledge. I mean, it's it's what really gets me, what really got me was I'm seeing this, how we're not talking about our history anymore. We're no longer talking about, you know we don't talk about World War II. We don't talk about Korea. We don't talk about, because wars drive this world. They drive history. They really
Hmm.
do, more than anything else, more than medical advances, more than scientific advances, more than any other advances there is. War advances society. It's it's sick, it's twisted, but it's true.
Yeah, it's
Our
all
war is
about
defined.
it's
Yeah,
all about the money. It's all about the
Yeah.
money. If you follow the money throughout history, you're gonna find out that, and you're gonna learn a whole bunch of stuff. I wanted to also touch upon that what you mentioned with different mediums being attacked in the past.
Hmm.
We saw it with music. Artists like Marilyn Manson and people like that were always like,
hmm
"Oh, they are the downfall of our society." But even before that, comic books. I wasn't around during that big comic book scare, but
yeah,
because
the
at
50s.
the time I was a comic book fan, I do know about that history that comic books were also viewed as the downfall of humanity.
Yep.
Movies also got censored a lot back in the day. So I don't remember who
Yeah,
said it.
you had the video nasties that were suppressed and weren't
Yeah,
allowed to be seen. You had like you said, they had the comic book scare of the 50s. William Gaines, who many of us
Hmm.
remember as being the guy from Mad Magazine, but a lot of
yeah,
us don't remember that William Gaines also used to run EC Comics, which were some of the most graphic and yet beautifully well written comic books in history. I mean,
yeah.
terrifying. They're really good. yet they were also subjected to, and comic books came within a whisker of being banned. I mean, a whisker. I mean,
Yeah,
they had to go. They just sent it. They just sent hearings on it in Congress about comic books, and they came within a whisker of it. Uh, that's right. Sasha Fred says the EC comics were also banned. Yes, came within a
Mhm.
week of that. They had to put the comic book code onto every comic book after that, stating that it was written within certain areas. You know, they could only write about certain kinds of horror. You know, you
Yeah.
couldn't script the graphics. The Hollywood movie code that came out in the 1930s or 31.
the
Yeah.
Hays Code.
It might have been a little after that, maybe after King Kong, where you no longer could like a man or woman couldn't they couldn't sleep in the same bed, or there's no nudity. The language was controlled. It was like you couldn't say that. Now, some of that was because it was the times that they were in, because
Mhm.
that's the times they were in. And guess what? That was the first time they were in that time. When they were going through what they were going through, that was the
Yeah.
first time.
Yeah,
We don't
I,
have that excuse.
I'm always taken aback when I'm watching older movies or TV shows, because you know how the parents would sleep in separate beds, and I'm like, well, that's
Right.
kind of weird. My parents don't do that.
Right.
Yeah, it was weird. You go back and watch a Fred, I Love Lucy, and it's so weird to see Fred and Lucy sleep in separate beds.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, it
You know,
is.
it was so weird to see that. Um, the DC Comics survived their near banning. Of course, it drove William Gaines out of it. I believe that he sold it. He started Mad Magazine, which was another fun parody book. Of course, it survived and it went on to become some movies and some. And they reprinted the magazines. They reprinted the EC comic books, which helped them develop a tremendous popularity again. And yes, they did get made into Creep Show and in the Creep Show, the movies, Creep Show and the Creep Show series. Those were
Yeah.
all based on
yeah.
Tales of the Crypt. They were all based on the EC comics. But
Mhm.
but for all that, when people look at that, when you guys all talk about those, here's the thing: when you guys all sit there and you all talk about that, you talk about Creep Show, and you talk about Tales of the Crypt, you talk about all those movies. Just remember that those movies came within a whisker of being banned. Being banned, almost didn't
Mhm.
make it through. Would have been destroyed if they had gone through. William Gaines could have been thrown in jail.
Yeah.
And that's how. And if they would have banned it, that's what exactly what would have happened. If you would have been held, if you would have been caught holding those comic books or reading them or distributing them, they would have been treating you like if you were doing it with porn. Back then,
Yeah,
you would have
that,
considered almost a pornographer.
Yep.
yeah, and
I
that was really
agree.
just
A pornographer.
a big
Yeah.
way to take money, because the big publishers had to pay the Comic Codes Authority to be allowed to have that little seal, and
Mhm.
that eventually became obsolete because they got rid of it. During the 2000s, I think they were like, "This is a joke. We're not paying it," and they started releasing their comic books without the
Yeah.
Comic Codes Authority seal, and so you could tell right away that even from the beginning, that was just a bunch of BS, just
Yeah,
BS.
I
But the fear
agree.
was there. But the fear was there. It's just like the Red Scare of the '50s. McCarthyism. It didn't matter if it was real or not. It only mattered that it was an idea that took hold. The fear of, am I on a list? Am I being blackballed? Are they people watching me? Is the government watching me? I get named. I mean, it was the first example of culture society. Because I mean, you could go around, if you didn't see anybody that you didn't like, you could call them a communist, and they could lose their job, their livelihood, and even face
Yeah.
jail time. Just being
Yeah,
called. There's no due process. No due
the,
process. It's like that was it. And
the big red scare.
yes, the big red scare. And then right
Yes.
out, basically, that's where the comic book ban, the Congress, that's where those hearings came from. during that era of fear. It's absolutely fear.
Isn't
So
there a movie by De Niro called Guilty by Suspicion that also touches upon that? I think it was Guilty by Suspicion. I'll have to check.
let's see. Yep. Let's see. The CC8, however, is pretty much dead. Haven't seen that. Nope, have not seen it either.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
haven't either.
No, it disappeared. It started with the independent publishers like Image and stuff like that, and then the big ones, the Marvel and DC, also stopped paying their fee, so it died out.
Slasher Fred mentioned in the original Frankenstein, he says, "I know what it's like to be a god," and where the monster accidentally kills Maria, the young girl, also was
Yeah.
dead. I
Also, a scene where the doctor is injecting him with the tranquilizer, so he like falls down. That also got taken out, and it was not lost until they find it in a vault somewhere and got reinstated into the movie.
So what we get with Fahrenheit 451 is, it's in the near future, dystopian future, a totalitarian future, I should say. And the term fireman has a whole different meaning to what we know as it is today.
Yes,
Fireman
it
today is someone who jumps on an engine and races out to put out fires, whereas in Fahrenheit 451, it's the opposite. They're there to start fires. They're there
Start
to
fires.
burn
Yes.
books. Yes.
Also, before we get too much into it, I was watching it, and one of many thoughts popped into my head, but I wanted to hear your take on it. Is this a future where the Nazis won? Because everyone's white, everyone's blonde, the
Yeah.
suits are very similar,
Yeah.
or maybe it's just inspired by
Yes.
that regime.
I think it definitely I think it's definitely a nod to saying that the Nazis have won.
Yeah, I think so too.
I
The way
mean,
that the movie is and everything, and the way that the book portrays it, it seems like the Nazis would have won it.
yeah, I felt that too. Um,
Can you imagine nowadays how it would be if the Nazis would have won?
they're winning now, Katie. They're winning now. That's the thing. This country is broken and divided, and fascism is not only has it taken root, but it is destroying this country. So the Nazis are in fact winning again.
Yeah,
They're winning.
have you seen?
They won initially. They initially won at first, and then they got greedy. But then and you hope that somewhere down the line someone makes the wrong mistake, and we all, everybody talks about woke, and this is another thing. It's like woke is not a bad word, kids. When you're sitting
Right.
around and you're trying to use woke against people, saying that's woke, that's woke, that's woke. Well, you know what? I hope it is. I hope you are. I hope you are.
Mhm.
I hope that you understand that, because when people are standing out there and they're trying to raise the flag, they're trying to let you know, they're standing on the wall saying, hey, our society is slipping into what you're watching. Well, that's what gave me the chills. Was I'm sitting here watching the Fahrenheit 451 from 1966, and I'm going like, that's today, that's now, that's not that's not a fantasy, that's not science fiction, that's today. That's
Kevin's
reality.
opinion. Kevin said, "I'm pretty sure it's just a future. We are on the trajectory towards it now." That's what
Yeah.
Kevin said.
Yeah,
Yep.
like did you guys see Captain America: The Winter Soldier?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know how the shield, the United States of America took the higher scientists from Hydra, and they brought them over to work for Shield, and then Hydra infiltrated Shield, and then by the end, Hydra was in control. That actually happened in real life.
Yeah.
The United States brought over a lot of German scientists to build stuff for them, and you could conceivably believe that the same thing happened. They absorb a lot of the German ideals, and that's what we're experiencing right now.
We took hundreds of verified Nazis. We verified them. We know that we know that they were part of the Nazi Party. We brought them over here. Walter Braun probably be the first and foremost, the godfather of rocket science. Our space program was founded on a lot of his knowledge. Yeah,
Yes, it was.
uh, everybody was after the Nazi scientists. Uh,
Yep.
if England and France got theirs, Russia got theirs, they would actually be their allies would actually be racing to these points where these scientists were to capture them.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing they wanted. They said, "You go get these people. We don't want them falling in the Russian hands. We don't want them falling inside the English hands. We don't want them falling inside the French hands. We want them for America."
Right.
And
Yep.
so, after the war was over, when it was hush hush, during the Nuremberg trials or what have you, men that killed for running prison camps were being killed for war crimes, rightfully so. But the men who caused the Blitz during Great Britain during 1940, those men that developed the V2 rockets, the V1 rockets,
Yep.
they were over here.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's that's the sort of thing that we need to be able to remember and to read about and teach our kids. When we're sitting here talking about the space program, you cannot talk about our space program without mentioning the history of it. Where did this?
Yeah.
Where did all? It wasn't all American. The space
No.
program was not American driven, kids. It was
No, it's
actually
not.
American driven.
It's cosmonauts.
Yeah, I can never
The
remember
Soviet Union.
I can never remember who said it, but it's a quote that I always have in the front of my mind. Is that those who do not remember the sins of the past are doomed to repeat them,
And
and
we
Yep.
are.
we see that all the time. People just either they have selective memory or like we're gonna see in this movie, just brainwashed, and they forget that all the. I'm trying to keep my language because we have a lady present, so I'm behaving
Well,
myself.
it's okay. Patrick said worse things. I just don't curse, but Patrick said worse things, so you're good.
Okay, so but there is a lot of BS that we see just keep continuing and repeating and repeating and repeating, and it's really quite frustrating to see the same thing happen over and over and over again, and no one learns a damn thing.
Nope, they don't.
Um, but I want to get into the movie too, because we definitely want to talk about the movie because it was really interesting and the characters, how they were portrayed, and everything else. Um, the book Fahrenheit 451 came out in 1953. It was written by one of the best American writers on any genre,
I
but
agree.
especially science fiction, and that was Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury was a magnificent writer and a visionary.
Yeah, he was.
He really, really was. To think about a society in the future, and think about it, Ray Bradbury wrote his book 8 years after World War II.
Yes, he did.
After we had won, while we were still in the afterglow of winning World War II, he comes up there and he writes a book saying in the future this could happen. This could happen.
Yeah.
And we just got done spending 6 years fighting to have that, make sure that would never happen in our lifetime. We never thought that we'd ever see that again. And yet here's Ray Bradbury. He's going like, and I'm sure that he was influenced by the communist trials, by the communist, the McCarthyism. I'm sure that he was influenced by that, because I'm sure back then when people started watching that, when you were getting tagged with, you're a communist, you're a communist, you're a communist, the Red Scare, all that was doing was just repeating 1930s Germany. There's a Jew, you're a Jew, you're a Jew. Main thing. Except that in Germany, it was a lot more deadlier than here in America in one sense. I mean, you could lose your life in Germany, but you could lose your life in America too, because everything you ever worked for could have been taken away from you. You could go to jail. You could be you could be blacklisted, which means you couldn't hold a job. You couldn't buy a house. You couldn't get a loan, or all those things you couldn't get. You couldn't get help from the government, because if you're labeled as a communist sympathizer. So so Ray Bradbury, I just thought it was fascinating thinking about it. Like, he was that alarmed enough to write a book that could happen again in Fahrenheit 451.
Right. Yeah. I was just looking it up. He was born in 1920.
So he was 33 years old when he wrote that. 33
And
years
then
old.
he died in 2020,
Yeah.
2012. And he was 91 when he passed away.
Yeah. I had a chance to go see him speak. Unfortunately, I knew it was real close to my town, but my parents, we didn't have a car at the time, so I couldn't go. But I remember being invited to go by some friends, and I just couldn't get. Um, that would have been really neat. I would have really enjoyed that. Um, so the movie opens up. In the movie itself, the filmmakers itself is really interesting because
Yeah, it is.
the copy I got was reading the cast and I was reading reading the directors and cinematographers and all
Same
that.
thing on this one.
Yeah,
Wow.
It actually threw me off. I was
yeah,
like, did I put
on the copy.
yeah, did I put the because you know how you can select an audio commentary or it would read out the text for those that can't see. I'm like, does this thing have that? So it did throw me off hearing that at the start of the movie.
Yeah,
Uh,
even the version that I was streaming had the same thing.
uh, it was really cool though because you're hearing all these names. Like you're sitting there going like, holy cow, it's just like you're sort of blown away by it because there's so much talent there.
Yeah, there is.
Francois Truffaut, um, the leader of the new French wave of cinema movement. This was his only English speaking film. This is the only film he did outside of France.
Hi,
And
Hobbs.
hey, Hobbs.
Hi, Hobbs.
All right. All is good in the world.
Also,
Hobbs Horace here.
that
So
the movie does start, and then we do see the fire truck, and that thing doesn't look safe at all. I was kind of worried the
oh my,
actors would fall off the damn
I
thing.
Right? Yeah, me
yeah,
too.
what's funny? It's like I thought they did a nice job considering. I thought they did a really nice job in portraying a futuristic society. A lot of it was
Yeah,
a lot of it was monochrome.
Yeah.
The fire truck looked futuristic. It did look futuristic. And of course, the firemen they used to have on the old engines. They used to have two firemen standing on the back. They would harness
Yeah,
themselves
they did.
in and stand on the back and hold onto the rail. Um,
Mhm.
so it was, it wasn't unheard of for that. Um, and then you see him racing down. You see him racing with the sirens on, and instead of going to, you're thinking, okay, well, they're going to go put out a fire, right? But
Right.
no,
Yeah.
they're going to homes, and the powers that they had. No, they could go inside anybody's house. They could search anybody, go anywhere they wanted to.
Yeah.
If they got a tip that that you have books in your home, they could go inside your house and they didn't need due process. They didn't need a search warrant or anything else. They would
Right.
just walk in there and they would just tear shit up looking for.
Mhm.
And as soon as they found them, they would just gather them up and then torch them.
Yeah.
yeah.
And what a sad thing to see the first time. So jarring. What was your impression the first
Yeah.
time you saw the first books burned, Professor, and then Katie?
Wait. What was that?
What was your
Sorry.
guys' first impression on seeing those books burned?
Well, first, I actually, it was one of those moments of unintentional laughter when they're putting the books in the bag, and then they just toss the books out anyway. I was like, well, that was a waste of time. You might have well just toss them without the freaking bag. But then I like the cinematography as because we see this a number of times throughout the movie, how they make these close up on the books, and you can see the author's name and the name of the
Yeah.
book, and you can see certain images, and you see this work of art suddenly just like melt and burn and crisp. And I was like, oh man, that hits me in the feels. I could have read those books.
Mm-hmm. I tell you what was really interesting about that too, Professor, was the fact that they did use real books. Those weren't
Yeah.
just props.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think they made a smart call on that. I think Truffaut did the right thing in showing the real books being burned. I mean, if you would have saw just the cover of it, being torched, and inside was just blank paper, whatever, I don't think it would have
Mhm.
the impact that it did. I mean, when you're sitting there watching it, you're really
Yeah.
seeing those books burn. And man, I was just like, damn. I mean, talk about a realism. What did you think, Katie?
I thought it was good. I liked the cinematography for that time because it is very realistic and everything. And I thought it was interesting how they came up with some of the props and everything like that. And acting was really good because nowadays you don't really see actors like that are acting and stuff like that. You know,
Um,
Yeah.
that actually want to like do the movie or kind of be in the movie and just kind of, just go with the flow. And these actors in this movie seem like they were like really good, and the actors like meshed well together, I guess you can say.
that's a question I ask a lot of the people I talk to. Um, like playing in a really, like playing someone like a Charles Manson or Adolf Hitler or Himmler or something like that. Child like asking someone if they like they play a child molester, like Jackie or Haley did in little children. Like like ask, are there certain roles that you will not do? You know, I mean, I totally understand. I understand. First of all, I understand how brave they are in doing the role. If they sit there like
Mhm.
Ralph Fiennes in Schindler's List, it's like you take a role like that, and to me, you're probably looking over your shoulder in fear of your career. You really are. I mean, but Ralph Fiennes, that he's a big star.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he is.
but look at the role he played.
Mhm.
I mean, every time you see him afterwards, you're gonna think about that role. And the more you do, the less you're probably gonna be inclined to watch him in anything because it hurts too much. It creeps you out too much. All you see is
Yeah.
that guy who's just shot a woman in the head.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
like, you're not really thinking that Ralph Fiennes, the menu. You're thinking Ralph Fiennes, the Nazi, the fascist Nazi officer it was sniping this. They were sniping prisoners. That's the thing. That's why some movies like Schindler's List. That's why they're always remembered. They're
Yep.
remembered now. Same thing with Fahrenheit 451. They're remembered now for the impact they made. A lot of movies now, like horror films, quite honestly, you're not going to remember anything in a month from now. Scream 6,
Right.
you're not going to remember anything. You might remember a couple of the kills, but you're not going to remember dialogue. You're not going to have it. It's not going to impact you, on an emotional level. Dramas, that's what dramas do. They impact us, especially historical ones. They impact us on an emotional level. Um,
Yeah.
but
And some people take that kind of stuff seriously. I can't remember the actor's name, but I do remember seeing it on a news article that he was a soap opera actor and he played this real mean person. People legit hated him. And he was like walking out, getting groceries, and people legit wanted to stab him because he played such a
Yeah.
believable jerk. And he's like, people, come on, it's just a freaking role. I get paid to portray this. I'm not really that way. But I could see a really good evil performance really affect an actor's career and, their personal life.
definitely,
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
I've heard that happen a few times to actors that are kind of jerks or jackasses or whatever, and people will say will go after them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's a funny
and
thing. I've heard that the people that play the best jerks are usually very nice people in real life.
they really are.
Mhm.
They let's see. Anthony Chabot is here. He says that Florida is awesome.
Hey,
Uh-oh.
Anthony,
Anthony went to Universal Studios.
Universal's fun.
Yeah, Universal's fun.
I don't live that far from there.
So yeah, I think he said he went on all the rides and had a great time. He
Yeah,
does
he
not want.
did.
Oh, that's nice. That's good, Anthony.
I don't think he wants to go home.
I
Yeah, once
hope you took a
once you
lot
go
of
to
pictures.
Universal or Disney, you never want to go. You never want to go go back.
So the opening scene, we really don't know what's really going on until we see the fire truck. Immediately you're thinking about are they going to rescue somebody? But of course they're not. And then you see the costumes. We see the helmets, and we see the lapels, the pins and inside on their cloaks. And then they go inside the house and they tear up the house and looking for books, and they take them outside in front of their neighbors, and they burn them. They just go ahead and start torching them out.
And they got this down to a science. They know where to look. They know the hiding spots. They build a little rig where they pile all the books in, and they just torch the things. I was also again unintentionally a funny moment because I see them going after the host, and I'm like, what are they gonna do? And then instead of spewing out water, they spew out fire, and I'm like, oh, firemen, I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
They, it's funny. And then we get to then we see Montag. That's our main lead, Montag. He is then shown to
Oscar Werner.
Oscar Werner, very fine actor.
Yes.
And he is shown, and I thought everybody's portrayal was really spot on. I have to say that about the acting. I know a lot of people probably will look at Oscar's performance today and see it sort of flat, but that's exactly what it should have been. I know that he used to argue with Truffaut about his character. I would love to know what he was did he think that his character should have more life? I don't think so until he's, and there is a small hole, and we'll get to this. There is a small hole I want to talk about too. But as far as his performance goes, I thought he did great. I thought he was fantastic. I thought his character, how he portrayed himself, was spot on. He was flat, he was monotoned. He was controlled, and the thing about it was like he wasn't educated. It's the one thing that comes across is like you're not really, to me, I'm just thinking like, okay, how are they learning how to drive? How do you learn anything to do anything without being able to read? How do you do that?
Right.
You get taught. You get, see by doing. But as far as actually, to putting things together, or like an airplane or air conditioner, or cooking a simple dinner, how are you going to do that without actually being able to read? And before you sit there and say, well, they must have had some instructions, this and that, not so fast, because there is a killer scene in the home where we see Montag looking at the newspaper with comics, no writing, none, just pictures. There really was no words. They really did not allow you to read.
That is true.
It was spooky.
Yeah,
that was really, really spooky.
Also, I guess because another thing they mentioned in this one is that everyone appears to be like high on drugs because they keep taking all these pills.
Yeah.
And so is this society a bunch of morons? Because they don't have any short-term memory, which is something that comes up a lot. I'm like, I was going to tell you something, but I forgot, so forget about it.
Now, isn't it a sort of coincidence? You mentioned that, Professor, too. You mentioned that, how they're taking all these pills and, just to make it happen. Place and here we are. We've actually legalized marijuana.
Right. Yeah.
You think that's a coincidence? You think them cocaine, marijuana? You think that's just like, okay, yeah? No. You went from basically what it was like. You basically went from the right wing going no drugs, war on drugs, no drugs are bad. But I think once they found out that, hey, we could keep these people sedated, keep them happy, let them have their marijuana, let them have their marijuana, let them smoke it, let them make it up however they want to, strong marijuana. They're going to be so interested in getting high. They're going to be so interested in getting high and growing and whatever. we can go over there and do whatever the fuck we want.
Yep,
Yeah.
If you
exactly.
look
I was
at
actually
commercials,
also thinking about how nowadays, let's say you take a pill for a headache. You have a really bad headache, you take a pill. But that
mhm,
pill gives you stomach problems. So you have to take a pill for the stomach problems. And that stomach problem pill affects your heart. So you have to take a pill for the heart.
sure.
And then
Right.
that heart medicine gives you a headache. So you have to take it. So it's a non ending
It's
cycle of pills that
Yeah.
we keep doing.
yeah.
Yeah. You know, I'm not having a good day today. We'll have a pill. I'm depressed. I'm depressed.
Right.
I'm depressed. You know, my mental health, my mental health, my mental health. It's like, here, have a pill, have a pill, have a pill.
Right.
Lose control, give up control, give up your choice,
Mm-hmm.
give up your life. And that really is what's going on. I mean, it's going on now. And back there in Fahrenheit 451, Bradbury commented on that by showing the society taking pills
Yep.
and watching the TV and having being interactive with that TV.
Yep.
Being interactive,
Exactly.
not only watching it, but people were trying to be part in it. If you could be a part of the show.
The
And
family.
it was clever how they did that too, because they would sit there and you know, you'd be
Mm-hmm.
part of the ongoing soap opera, and they would ask you, "What do you think, Linda?" And here you are, Linda, and you're thinking they're talking to you, only you, but they're talking to anybody named Linda. But as far
Yeah,
as you're
even
concerned, it was clever.
even Montag mentioned it's like, oh, they probably send that to like a thousand Lindas, and then it's like, well, probably, but I wish you wouldn't have said so. No, let me take my pills. Blah, blah, blah.
Hello, traveler. How are you?
Also, was that monorail? Is that something that actually existed, or was it did they just build a little like
I think
section of monorail just for that scene?
I think that existed. I think that
Okay.
existed. You should see the people moving here in Detroit. It's the funniest damn thing you ever see. Um,
Oh, we
let's see.
lost Katie.
Uh, oh, we lost Katie. Okay, I'll wait for
Yeah.
her to come. She might be wiped out. She might have worked today. I can
It
sense
looked
this.
like she froze. Oh, no, she says she lost internet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it
No.
happens.
Hobbs is oh, okay. Hobbs says, "What's wrong with taking a pill for mental health?"
That also reminded me. I don't know if you remember during the '90s that how they were just diagnosing every kid with a attention deficit disorder. They would like medicate them with a whole bunch of pills, which were
Oh yeah.
later discovered were really bad for the kids. It turns out they shouldn't have given kids those particular
No.
pills. So again, we still don't learn. That happened in the '90s. It's happening now, and it's just a mess.
Hobbs says, "Mental health isn't a pun. Some people have to have their medication for mental health." Uh, yeah, but I mean, you know, sometimes though, you know what though? It's like a child learning how to walk. Just because he falls down on his ass the first time doesn't mean you go ahead and give him a pill because he fell on his ass. Sometimes you got to stand him up and let him figure it out. You know, you really do. And the thing is, though, it's like, you know, getting people dependent on on modern science, you know, modern pharmaceuticals. All it does is just help strip away the individual of their freedom of choice, their voice.
Yeah, the brain really is a very complicated machine. Sometimes it doesn't release the proper chemicals, and some pills do help, get everything in order for a bit. But I think in the long run, because we don't know what they put in those pills, honestly. I don't think in the long run abusing those pills, because that's the other thing. Every medication also has an addictive nature. So
Yeah.
so you see it in sleeping pills. You see it in all sorts of so. I don't know. I suffer from depression. I think I might have mentioned this before, and it is something really hard to deal with. But I try to avoid the pills because I don't want to add another detonator to the storm that happens sometimes on this little head. But yeah, it's just a mess. I don't trust the pharmaceutical companies because all they care about is the money and how they can get you hooked on the next product. But those are just
We
my thoughts on that.
we definitely see that in this movie, and we also see the
Yeah,
monotone. We see the monotone too, like when Monte gets on the tram to go home for the first time, and he meets Clarice. I mean, he's very quiet. Everybody on inside that tram is medicated. You can see that right away, except for Clarice. Clarice and Montag are probably the only two that are not medicated. Everybody else on that tram was, and you notice that
Yeah.
right off the bat. And then Clarice comes over there and starts talking to Montag, which I actually thought was really brave. I thought that was really brave, showing her walking up to a fireman. Think about it. It's like, you know that you have contraband, but you walk up to a cop and you sit there and say, "What's up, man?" I mean, yes, you could do that, and sometimes the best way to confront something like that is head on. But I just can't. But if she had been medicated, I don't think she would have. I don't. I think she would have been. I
Yeah.
think she would. I think she would have been in fear. I think she would have been. Because no one talked to Montag when people saw him. He's not looked at upon as a hero of the people. He's not looked upon like a fireman of today is. He's looked upon with fear and uncertainty, and that's even if you're innocent. You're still nervous about it because he's such an authoritative figure, and the
Yeah,
society.
that's where we
Um,
get the first inkling that Clarice is a free thinker. She's not part of the machine. And just to touch upon what Hobbs is saying, we're not trying to make joke on mental health. I've known a lot of people that have dealt with their mental health, and some that unfortunately have not. They haven't been able to win their battle, and they've unfortunately taken means to unalive themselves. So it's not. We're not trying to make fun of mental health, and we're not saying
oh,
it's
not at
something that
all. In
it's a
fact,
cold. It's just it
it,
just
it
my personal take on it is that, again, because I
yeah.
do suffer from depression, and I am aware of how difficult it is to live with something like that. That but seek help if you are suffering from depression. Seek help. If medication is going to help you, be it do so. If talking to a therapist is going to help you, be it do so. If talking to a friend in your darkest time and it's going to help you do so. But we're not trying to make fun of mental health,
Oh,
and
no one's
if
making
that's
fun of
what came
it. This is
across,
not. This is not
I'm
a.
sorry.
This isn't a show that's poking fun at anything. What it is just showcasing what's happening. And believe me, by giving people medications over and over and over for the slightest things, you are taking their control away. You are taking the control away. Legalizing medical marijuana is they legalize marijuana. That's another form of taking your control away. Like I said, like a good drug dealer once told me, I knew a good friend of our family back in the day. He was a good drug dealer. He was really good. And he says the best thing you could do, the most successful drug dealers are the ones that never touch it. It's true. It's a cliche, but it's true. The ones who
Yeah,
don't, like all these people that are sitting there telling you that, yes, you go ahead and make your marijuana, make it potent. Go ahead and smoke it. Let me tell you, those people, the people who are okaying it are saying they're fine or sponsoring the laws or whatever, they're not doing it.
yeah.
They're
It's
no, they're not
it's like
doing
they
it.
it's like they told Tony Montana the first rule is you don't get high on your own supply.
Yeah, and that's today's
Ah, I
government.
froze again.
They're not going to get high on this. They're not going to take pharmaceuticals. They're not going to, maybe some do, but I'm saying, we can't say them all, but I mean, but the vast majority don't because they
Yeah,
want to be in control. And getting our society distracted and medicated, they get control. It's easier to control the masses that way. And when you're getting your medicines from the government, when you're getting them from the government, you're going to pretty much do what the government says. Otherwise, yes, you could go to and hope to get you could risk it. You could go there to a pain center and get an illegal prescription, and you could face jail time or fines or what have you. But the majority of the people, they get prescriptions from the government. They're going to do what the government says. That's control. That's giving up control. That's just,
yeah,
and that's what they did. That's what they've done here in Fahrenheit 451. The government has control. They're taking away your books. They're taking away your voice. They're taking
yeah.
away your free will. They're taking away for you to self educate yourself. Could you imagine being told to take a medicine, but then you couldn't read up about it? You couldn't read about the side effects. You couldn't read about the long-term abuse. You couldn't learn. You couldn't read about allergic if you're allergic to it. You couldn't read about if you that you can't combine other pills together. Every time you're taking one of these pills in Fahrenheit 451, you're replacing Russian roulette because you're solely trusting that whoever's giving you the pill is and we do find that out in Fahrenheit 451 when Linda overdoses.
Yeah, she mixes too many of the pills, and
No,
she ODs right there.
Yeah. Well, what pill did you take? Gold number 8, blue number 2. See what
Yeah.
I'm saying? See what I'm saying? It's a government control. It's uh,
And
the fact you couldn't even read about it. It's absolutely terrifying.
yeah, because even Montag's like, well, what's gonna happen? Because two medical people are in there, and they're like, don't worry, we see this like 100 times a day. We got this. We got this. All we're gonna do is just put this new blood in her, suck out this blood out, and she'll be good as new. She'll be hungry and a little bit horny, but she'll be fine. So this is something that happens in this society again because again, I do honestly believe this world is full of idiots, people that just don't know what the hell they're doing. I'm surprised they lasted this long.
Hobbs is mentioning, it's all good. It just hurts sometimes to hear it. Yeah, it does hurt. It does. I agree with that. See, I wish more people would. You know, I don't like knowing a lot of my friends are on medications. I don't like it. I know some are, and it hurts my feelings. It does. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that they feel like they need to depend on modern chemicals to get them through the day. I understand it, but I also want them to know there's inherent dangers to what they're doing. It's like, yes, you can take some medications for a bad period, but make sure your bad period, because a lot of people do. They'll just once they start taking it, the pills are very addictive. Oh, I'm just going to take a quarter bar of Xanax. I don't know how many people I know have started with small with that, and next thing you know, they're hooked. They're hooked on all these different medications, and it's through no fault of their own. A lot of times the doctors just don't. That's their way of handling you. There's so many people coming at them that the best way for them to treat you is to just give you a prescription and not actually listen to you.
Yeah, it's
Um,
also I don't know how true it is. When you search online and you go through the rabbit hole, it's something that I read once that the minute the doctor sees you, oh, you need this and this and this and this because they get some doctors, not all doctors, not all doctors. I just heard that case, that one particular case that he was diagnosing people with all these things because he would get a kickback from the pharmaceutical department. So
mhm.
as if it would get people on their medication, he would get a little something of the green himself. And I only remember reading one case about that, but if it happened once, it might
All it's
happen.
happening is the one is just because you hear it once, believe me, it's happened 100 times elsewhere.
Yeah.
So back to the movie. So we do see this, right? We do see this, and Clarice and Linda are played by the one and only Julie Christie. Um, she, she was a
It's the
good
same
actress.
actress?
Yeah, she was a fine
Holy shit!
actress.
I thought it was two different actresses.
No, no, she played both. She played Clarice and she played Linda.
Holy shit! Because Montag, when he meets Clarice, he says that he's married, and he's like, and
Mhm.
she asks, Clarice asks him what she's like, and he responds, "Well, she kind of looks like you, but with long hair." And now
Yeah.
that you mention, I'm like, "Holy shit! You just blew my mind there, Patrick."
so Julie Christie is she's our free spirit. Um, she's our free spirit in this movie. She's and So Montag goes home, and and the thing too, like Clarice is asking him on the train, like why do you do what you do, and have you ever read any of the books that you've taken?
Yeah,
Have you read any of these books? And of course, he's looking at her like, no, no, of course not. And then he gets home and he sees his wife, and his wife's hooked up to the telly, and taking all these different happy pills to function during the day. You never got the impression that she worked anywhere. You didn't get the impression that she worked. Um, but all she did was stay home. They don't have any kids. There's no kids. I'm not sure if that was by design or by government regulation, but they don't have any kids. And Montag comes in and he does ask her, like, like, what pills are you taking? And because she's taking a lot of, because he noticed that one of her containers is empty already. And he's like, well,
Yeah.
how many pills did you take? And she goes, oh, I just took a few.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to mention real quick, the practical effects in this movie throughout are exceptional. I really like revisiting movies from the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s because it's all practical. But my
Right.
goodness, the green screen in that monorail it looked pretty bad. That's the
Yeah.
only thing that kind of threw me off of that scene because you could see the very poor green screen lines on everyone. I'm like, you could have done that a little better.
That happens, especially during during the 70s, man, it was really, really bad. It was just so cheesy, the driving against the green screen was just wow, it was just bad. Um, but and he does, they sit there and they watch the telly, and then and Linda's trying to get onto that show, and she thinks that they're only talking to her, that she's only going to be the one on it, interactive, and then he says, it could be just a lot of Lindas everywhere, it's just not
Yeah.
you. So there's no compassion, there's no passion between the two of them. You get the feeling that Linda is trapped. She really doesn't have any direction or purpose in life. While her husband has an important job, it's not a it's like it is like being, having a policeman for a neighbor. Yes, he's a cop, and he's a cop, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be like really open your arms to him. Like you're not really going to be embracing a friendship with him,
Yeah.
nor he you, because that's how cops are. The cops don't really, they only stick with their own kind. And you get the impression here too that Montag does not have any social life at all, unless there's some friends that come over, and even then he tolerates them, as we see later on. Um,
Yeah.
so he goes back there to his firehouse, and lo and behold, he is up for promotion. It looks like he's going to be promoted, and so he's very excited about that. And
But
initially,
I did like the bureaucracy of everything because again he's reading this file with no words. It only has a couple of numbers because there's no words in this world, just numbers. And he's like, "Oh well, you're up for promotion. We see that you're a married man and everything, but we need 12 more pictures of you from the back and 12 more from the side and 12 more from the front,
yeah.
and we should be good."
Did you notice one thing in his file?
What?
Did you notice the one thing that was missing in his file?
No.
No written files. They're all
Oh
pictures.
yeah,
Yeah,
no words.
no words. No,
Just
no
pictures.
nothing. So he's gonna go ahead and he's gonna go ahead and because everybody's like happy for him, and he gets talked to by the captain after the captain gets done reaming two recruits, and things are looking, for as far as he's concerned, things are looking up, but there's something disquieting going on. Clarice has actually gotten into his head. Now, this is the only part of the movie, and I wish they would have expounded on a little bit more, was the fact that there was no moment, no single moment, aha moment. It was like one scene, his friends come over, or no, there's a scene where his friends come over. He starts taking a book. He took a book home, but there's no curiosity. Like even in Equilibrium, where they showed when Christian Bale shoots Sean Bean, but he's curious. He's curious about what's going to happen. He
Yeah.
wants to know more. He quits taking his pills. That's another movie with medication control. Um,
Yeah.
uh, but in this movie, we don't know what caused Montag to be a fireman to all of a sudden wanting to be a rebel, to like all of a sudden wanting to read a book. I mean, there had to be a little bit more to it than just meeting a girl on a tram that talked to him.
Yeah.
He's too indoctrinated for that. You know, he
If
really
if
would.
if I could make if I had the liberty to make an editing choice in this one to kind of make that more poignant, would be when they go visit the neighbor of I forgot her name, with Clarice. If that would have been the detonator, if that happened and he saw the passion that this lady was willing to go to for her books, that would have spurred him to actually, well, if someone's willing to die for this, there has to be something behind this.
Yes,
I'll read a
they
book
should
and
have
see
moved
what.
that scene. They should have moved that scene up sooner. I
Yeah,
agree. I agree. I think editing wise, it would have been a lot more impactful. But it went from nothing to all of a sudden now he's got, and not only does he have a book, but he has a lot of books. I mean, a
yeah.
lot of books, and it's just like, where did that come from? Where did that emotion come from? How did he change? You know, like they didn't that Truffaut didn't show us that. He just showed us that, you know, all of a sudden now he's got books, and now and the other thing too is like, okay, he's got books, but how did he learn to read? We don't really get
Yeah.
they never explained that to us. Like, if I wish they would have. How did they learn how did they educate people? I mean, you
Well,
can't you could watch videos all you want, but you still need the written word. You cannot teach anybody without the written word, especially how to read.
yeah, because that as he was doing, I like that scene where he's opening the book and he's like, because I was also thinking, why is he reading it like that? He's like, this is a book
That makes sense
I
though.
am reading, and he's like, oh, that's right, because there's no text in this world. That's why he's reading it like
Yeah,
that. And I
yeah,
like how they keep zooming in because you see him with the book like this, and it's like, oh, this is a book, and then they zoom in a little closer, so you see the words, and then you see his nail as he's reading each one of the words. I thought that how they kept zooming in really put you in the mindset of Montag as he's reading a book for the first time.
yes. And you know what's really cool too is like, I remember and they did capture this really really well, was the excitement of learning, because
Yeah,
you know here he is at late at night, and he's got not one but he's got like five books open. He's reading every book. He's right there. He's looking down on it. He's reading aloud. He's excited to learn. It's like he's a man in the desert getting his first taste of water.
yeah, but I do question where he would get those books because there's no
Yeah,
library,
I,
and I doubt that the firehouse has a bunch of books in storage. They would burn those babies the
and
moment they got
everything.
them.
They were burning. Yeah, I think that he was. I think it was implied that he would have been taking him home for a while, because remember he carried it. He always carried a briefcase, maybe a lunchbox type thing, and he also had a carry on, you know, like strap
Yeah,
on.
yeah,
And I think he was just doing that. But do you remember the scene that it caught me? And it took me a minute to catch on to it. But there is a scene where he's going to work, and they get a call, uh, and all of a sudden he goes to the pole,
yeah,
and at first the way he put his hand around the pole, and then he didn't, and then he did it again. I thought that he had been caught. I thought, oh shit, they caught him. They know something's up. They're not they're forcing him. They're forcing him. They're not. They're going to start ostracizing him. Like, you're not going to let him go up the pole, and he had to go up the stairs. And then he had to come back down the stairs. It wasn't until he came back down the stairs during that call that I realized what he was doing. He was showing his individuality. He was making a
yeah,
conscious choice. It was his will. It was like, I'm not going to do what everybody else is doing. I'm doing what I want to do. And so he
yeah,
started going up the stairs.
yeah, yeah. That
And
was a good scene.
powerful,
And
real powerful.
because he also has an antagonist. There's that I don't think they name him, but there's also this coworker's that's kind of like the sleazy guy that always wanted to get him in trouble. Because I'm guessing he also wants a promotion.
Yes. And the captain was Beatty, and the captain liked he liked Montag, and he was always he's always teaching them, telling them, like, when they're finding the massive library, like, you can't have these kind of books. You can't encourage free thinking. Next thing you know, these people have free will, and it's just like, wow, just listen to him. Listen to that dialogue. Listen to that dialogue. 1966 to now. That could be today, suppressing our
Yeah.
vote, suppressing our voices, not allowing protests, putting saboteurs inside our protests. And the government does that. The cops do that. That's without a doubt, that happens. They put the cops in there to
Yeah.
break buildings up, to cause fights, to firebomb. We saw that. We've seen that before. We know that they do that.
Another movie that came to mind as I'm watching this is another movie that is kind of prophetic. Is Demolition Man. How in Demolition Man everyone was, the same. No one had any individuality. Everything was PC. And now we're seeing that nowadays. No one can be an individual. Now everyone has to,
No,
you have to do you have to like what everyone else likes. You have
yeah.
to say what everyone else says, because if you're not, you're gonna get canceled. Naughty, naughty.
And that's on both
So
sides. That's on both sides. We can't discuss, we can't really have that kind of conversation without mentioning it comes from both sides. We see both sides are doing it. They're both doing the cancel culture. And it's to the destruction of one and all, you know.
yeah,
I don't, I've been seeing, every time I see someone mentioning James Franco, I hear people immediately just jump all over him, and I'm going like, well, last I looked, he hasn't been convicted of anything yet.
yeah.
Uh, I don't want to be one of those people that are, McCarthyism, and they're running around pointing my fingers at you and sit there and say you're a communist, you
Yeah.
know. And the fact of the matter is, it's so easy to go in there today and sit there and claim somebody has done something to you. A little makeup, a little bit of makeup, a little bit of lighting, social media. Your own mom could come back and get you and think that you're guilty.
Yeah, there's even apps where you can put a celebrity's face on your face, and you can say whatever the heck you want, and
Yep.
you know what's that, deep fake? I think that's called.
I mean, you could, they can't, they're running around, saying, well, you said this or you said that, or or what have you, and it's a distraction for one thing, now, because now we're sitting around talking about that, for a week, and in a week things could be happening that affect our future that we don't get any news coverage at because they're too busy covering the big celebrity news or the big cancel culture news.
Yeah,
And,
like
and you
that
know,
that
and
chemical
again,
explosion.
that's by design. It's by design.
Yeah, that chemical explosion that happened a month back. No one was really talking about it because they were talking about what was happening. Well, the current example, the Bud Light thing or the TikTok thing.
Exactly.
But it's
Exactly.
just to distract people. Like, oh, look at this, and people don't realize that the chemical explosion just happened, and it's that this is a dangerous thing you should watch out for. But
Or
no,
the
no,
or,
don't
or
focus on that. Focus on
The Republican judge down in Texas that's trying to suppress the abortion bill, or trying to allow it to for people, trying to let it to go through after saying no to abortions, but yet it's okay for this abortion bill to go through. But we find out the reason why he's okaying that and suppressing other things is because he has $25 million worth of stock. But we're not
that.
hearing about that. We because we're too busy hearing about other things, culture things, what is it, popular culture, popular,
Yeah,
topic, so and we see that here within Fahrenheit 451. What's the
there's
use
no
of
news. There's
um
nothing. How do these people prepare for a tornado or a storm or anything? There's literally no news. Do they just wake up one day and oh, look at that,
and we talk about
everything's
that.
destroyed?
Yeah, we talk about that here too. We talk about the lack of news, and it's like the lack of news, or the mainstream media, or that sort of thing. We do our best to discredit it and to smear it. even when they are telling us the truth and they are talking about us, we tend not to believe it. We tend to smear it, jump on there and smear it. Um, and only to where a point where only one stream of knowledge or news is allowable. And it's like it's not it's that and that's again that's happened to Fahrenheit 451. We see that only the government controls what we watch on the news. Um, what did you think of the scene? What did you think of the scene where he when he first came up when he first started reading? His wife was totally shocked. His wife was like, "Oh my God," because she knows that this is a felony. She starts taking down the books, and I think that she was going to try to throw him out. And he comes up to her and says, "Well, this is my medication. This is my television. This is my family. These are my family." And he starts he starts exhibiting symptoms of individuality, which his boss picks up
Yeah.
on. Beatty picks up on that. People start noticing that he is, he's acting out differently. He's moving slower in terms of, he's not in there, he's not in there trying to tear apart houses or look for books to burn. He's standing by the door, but he's not in there. He's not looking for them. And then when they find the one lady, and we got to talk about that, obviously. Wow,
Yeah. Well,
that's a powerful scene.
I
The
liked
lady
I
with
liked that. To touch upon your question, I did like that scene that again, other than just questioning where the hell he got the damn books, but he's just trying to learn things. I've fallen in that rabbit hole. I hear you or someone else from the community talk about something, and then if I don't have a book, I search online. I'm like, well, what does that do? And then look at that. Oh, then that leads me to another thing, and no, and so I start absorbing as much of that specific topic as I can. So I related to Montag just reading about all these things. I was like, oh, what's this? Oh, a rhinoceros. What is that? Oh, it has plates and a horn. Oh, that's interesting. So I
how
like
about
that.
how about when Linda had her friends come over to watch the television, and he comes in, and they know him to be a fireman and whatnot, but then he also he breaks out the books, and also and then, her friends are like, oh shit, he's got books, and they try to leave, but of course he holds them there, and he starts reading the prose to them. He starts talking to them.
That's
um
another thing that gets touched upon in this scene. That apparently they do have a military because Montag does talk about, oh well, my husband is not with me because he went outside, but he just disappeared. And Montag's like, no, you idiot, he died in the war. There was a war, and he died outside. That's why you don't have a husband,
yeah.
silly. But they're like, no, no, no. He just, he just disappeared. It's what happens. How about that actress? I heard she's pregnant. So all these people are just like programmed to think whatever the family tells them. So I thought it was very interesting that Montag himself thought of books as his family. Like these things, this Charles Dickens. He told me about his life because he was reading. That's what the first one he's reading, Charles Dickens. That I was born on this date, and as I was born, I was crying and everything. And he loves these things, and knowledge is something that can reassure you, can teach you, can even movies. That's why I love movies themselves. They can teach you something. They can cause an emotional reaction, and that's something that I thought was very risky on Montag's part. I'm like, Montag, buddy, you're really pushing it here. You're gonna get in trouble. But the passion that he reads the book
Yes.
to, and I actually
But
thought
how,
one of the
but you
friends,
know what the thing is though, it's like some of the friends were appalled by that. But then the one lady, she started crying because she loved it,
yeah,
and she
yeah,
was like, she knew what she was missing, and she was moved emotionally by Montag's reading. Like she wanted to be able to have the courage to go there and read and have the ability to read a book, and she just was crying because it was something that she was denied to her.
yeah.
Um, and so and then we go ahead and then we meet the big one where they find the library. Oh, my gosh, the library scene. That
I
that
was, I
lady.
was, I'm not gonna lie, I was really envious of her home setup, of how she had all these wonderful, like, secret rooms with books and everything. Like, I want to visit there one day. I would like to pick out a book from there.
Let's see. I must have missed something Ant said. Let me scroll up here. Let's see. I'm not sure if Ant's still here or not.
Well, I'm reading here. He said he subscribed to Phil's creepy video, so
Uh,
thanks for that, Ant. Then I don't see anything.
Rob, yeah, I don't either. He says Ant is
Hey,
correct.
man, I didn't see you in the hello.
Um, yeah, this up to your page, man. Um,
No, I'm gonna check her out and sub myself. 'Cause I don't. That's something that I've been noticing with YouTube. It's still happening. I subscribe to someone and I think I'm subscribed to them, but then I don't see any new videos on my feed, and I go check and I'm unsubscribed, and I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know either. I get subs every day, but I don't know who they're from. It just says that I'll look at my account and it says you gained 3 subs, and I'm going like, okay, well, who subbed to me? Because I didn't get that, and then I don't know who it is, so I can't even go back to say thank you or to return the compliment. I don't understand how that works. Um, so it frustrates me because I'd like to know who subs to me so I can say thank you. Um, so
Yeah,
we go to that one big house. That house looked beautiful. The big house, and because the reason why they could burn books within the house is because the house. And again, I wish they would explain this, but the houses have been made into fireproof. They were fireproof. The modern
yeah,
houses are fireproof, and they could burn books in there without burning the house down. But of course, there's a
yeah.
lot of older houses out there that if they got caught, they would just they could torch everything. They would take the books outside and they torch it. Some were so bad that they just burned the whole house down. And we
Yeah.
do see that with this one where Montag and his engine company go out to a house, and we see the lady in the house come down, and she basically dies with her books. There's so
Yeah.
many books. There's just so many books. The library. There's so many, and the lady, and before she would. Before she would give up her books, she'd rather die with her books than be, separated. And so we see that poor lady, and that's what happens. She dies,
Yeah.
surrounded in flame by her books. And
That
that
this is
really, Montauk, that's what really made Montauk. He realized that, yeah, he's in the wrong boat. He's on the wrong
yeah.
team. Um,
This is the scene that I think. I mean, it works as it is because you can see as everything's burning down, his desire to save something. He wants to save as many books as he can, but
he wants
but
to
he
save
can't.
her. He wants to save her.
I think it's more. I thought it was more of the books that he
I,
saw.
I, I
He,
I
he
think
had never
I don't
seen
think he
so
wants.
many books in his life, and he's like, "Oh my God, these books that I've never read.
No,
I want to save some, but I
I,
can't."
I think he wanted to save her. I think he was tempted to go get her, and because it's like no, why should she die for that? And
Yeah,
I think that he moved. I mean, if that was the case where he wanted to save the books more than her, then there's no redemption for that character.
I
I don't
guess.
care. I don't. I
Yeah,
don't care if he has. I don't care if he saves 1,000 books. If you rather save 1,000 books versus one human being, I don't care. I don't care about him. I do think that his conscience caught up to him, and I do think that he tried it. He wanted to go. He wanted to go try to save her, and for what, and plus for what she represented. She's willing to die for her beliefs. She's willing to die for her books, and
yeah.
I think he wanted this. He wanted that. He wanted to save that.
This
Um,
is why this is the scene I was mentioning. It's the only edit I would, if I could do, is that I would put this scene before, and this scene is the detonator for him to be like, "Holy shit, this lady is willing to die for these things. There has to be something to them." Because we
right.
saw you mentioned it. It's the same thing that happened and was done in Equilibrium. It wasn't until Christian Bale saw the conviction of Sean Bean, and he's like, there's something here. Maybe I should look a little bit more beyond what the society's telling me. So I'm
And
gonna
then
flip
and
these
then
scenes.
Emily Mortimer too.
Yeah,
Emily Mortimer, they were gonna burn her alive, and and he says, "I can save you. I can save you." She says, "No, you can't. You can't. I don't want to be saved. I want this is not I'm not gonna compromise me for that." And he saw her die, and so he I yeah between that and his friend. We're going to talk equilibrium too. That's for sure. We're going to be talking about that because that actually fits into our May our May what do you call it? Mayhem.
yeah, it was gonna be mayhem. Our
Mayhem.
good buddy Echo Zero is the one that helped me with that name. It's mayhem. so so thanks so much, Echo. And also, I'm looking at the chat. Spoilers, but congrats, Mayan. She won the drawing.
For Sean.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. How does she beat Hobbs? Okay. Mayhem. Yeah, like the okay. Nice, nice. Congratulations. Um, we see that we see the lady, she dies. Montag is that's definitely he's definitely off the reservation after that. Um, and so he goes through, you know, he starts having dreams of Clarice, Clarice. He sees her as the lady who died, and he's really disturbed by that.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's another really poignant scene that I enjoyed because this society is so numb mentally that dreams are extinct. No one dreams anymore.
no,
Everyone just takes a couple of pills and sleeps. And as Montag's mind is expanding with knowledge, with things, his imagination is being active, and he starts dreaming, and it legitimately freaks out his wife. Like, dude, what the fuck was wrong with you yesterday?
yeah.
You were tossing and turning and screaming and talking. I've never heard anyone do that. And Montag's like confused because he doesn't know what's going on either.
Yeah, he's sleeping. I mean, he's dreaming. Um, so, but the same night that he's dreaming, he's dreaming about this woman and Clarice. Clarice's house is raided. Her house has
Yeah,
been. Someone has tipped off the firemen to her house, and so she manages to escape. Uh, 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 she manages to get out before she gets busted. And of course, the next day when Montag hears about it, he breaks into his captain's office. So he wants to find out about where the girl is at. And he wants to know where about the case, where she to go or what have you. But the thing about it is too, is like there's nothing there written, so it's really nothing really more to be gained, which is one of the reasons
yeah,
why I think when he gets caught, that I think that's one of the reasons why he doesn't get punished is because there's nothing there for him to go on other than pictures. So it's like,
yeah,
what are you gonna do with what you got, with the information you got? Um, so, uh, but Montag, he decides that he wants to help Clarice. He wants to help her and go back to her house and recover the incriminated evidence that uh, uh, that would incriminate people like her to firemen like him.
yeah. And I
So
do. That's another thing that I do. I guess again. I have watched this movie once just to watch it, and then I watch every time you recommend a movie to do for our streams. I look at it in a more analytical way. I try to dissect everything. And I was thinking, because again, this is a new experience for everyone. They have lived in this society for years, and they're trying to wean themselves out with stuff. But I did find it very curious that these people are not that good at hiding their new individuality because Montag visits one of the neighbors and he's like, "Oh, we always thought they were kind of weird because look at that house, it has an antenna. Look at that house, it has an antenna. Look at that house, it has an antenna, and then look at their house, no antenna. That's kind of weird."
right, the antennas were houses that were connected to the state-run TV. And so
Yeah.
if you didn't have an antenna, that means you were probably reading. So
Yeah.
that's basically what I was telling us. Is like any house would be suspect without an antenna. That means the people there are probably reading books instead of watching the state-run television.
Yeah.
Um, and the thing about it is too is like you got the impression from watching that from the interaction that Linda had with the television was the fact that not only could you see them, but they could see you as well. You got the impression that when they looked into the camera, they were also able to see inside your house as well to see if you're watching them or not.
Yeah, and
Um,
listening into you, because when the scene when Montag's wife is overdosed, there's like 5 phones throughout the house, so you must think they also are listening into what they're saying,
hmm
or maybe not. This society is so full of idiots that maybe no one there's no one smart enough left to actually run something so complicated. I don't know. It's a weird little world.
it definitely is. I mean, I sort of really wish they would have explained that part of it, how they learned how to operate machinery and whatnot. Um, I mean, it just seems to be a little bit more technically advanced. It seems to be tech advanced. You would have to have some sort of reading. It's
Yeah,
not like the Matrix where they plug you in, and I know kung fu.
yeah,
Show
yeah,
me, show me. Oh, okay. Uh, it wasn't quite up to that tech level. Yeah, you never got the impression that it was, but you still, it's the one of the questions that come out of the movie with how do they learn what they learned in order to do what they did? Say that 10
yeah,
times. Um,
yeah.
let's
And
see.
this is where when Clarice and Montag are in the basement, because Clarice is trying to look for something. She doesn't know where it could be. And that's when Montag's training is like, well, I'm a fireman, so if I were looking for something on a base, and he smashes the base, and it's a list of addresses for her family that she's trying to keep safe. So I
Right.
thought that was pretty cool, and I like the interaction that Montag and Clarice has. I didn't feel any particular chemistry between the two, but
No,
I do
no,
feel like they were two like-minded people that were
right.
just trying to discover this new thing called individuality.
Yeah, I didn't get the feel of any romance between the two of them.
Uh,
There wasn't any of that. I mean, Montag was just, I didn't feel that at all. There's absolutely zero chemistry in that term. And of course, Montag, when we see him, he was the point man. He was the one that the Captain Beatty sent in all the houses because he knew more than anywhere else where the first books would be found. Because remember, all they needed to find was one book.
yeah,
Then you're toast. But I mean, it's like, and so Montag seemed to know where everybody hid their books at. So he was like almost like a point dog, like a
yeah.
retriever. Go in there, find the books, and he always did. Um, and then uh, uh, yeah, as far as the chemistry goes between Montag and Clarice, yeah, you never really felt that at all. You just felt like they're kindred spirits, but you really didn't feel like it was any sort of romance.
Yeah, do you think
Um,
maybe that's because of the all the chemicals they were drinking? Because I don't think there's any like sexual drive in these people. Because if you remember going back again to that scene where Montag's wife oldies and they clean out her blood, she gets really hungry and she also gets different needs.
oh yeah,
Like our friend Echo would say, "Chicka wow wow, chicka wow
yeah,
wow," and it's
chicken
because
boom
she
boom.
got cleaned of all the chemicals that were in her blood.
Yeah, they cleaned her out, and then they said, yeah, well, she'll be hungry when she wakes up, and hungry for food and hungry for other things. And sure enough, we saw that. We definitely saw that. And it was like you sort of wondered if they kept them suppressed in order to because like the birth control, like a lot of people were like her friends were commenting about not having babies, like I don't
Yeah.
want to have a baby. Well, we can't let the race die out. We gotta have kids. um
And there are kids because Clarice was a teacher, so there are kids
yeah,
in this world. But I guess again, maybe because they are so sexually suppressed with the chemicals and with the lack of imagination that they just don't have that drive anymore. And maybe that's also why Clarice and Montag just have zero chemistry between each other.
Um, going back to Clarice's house, he finds like you said, he finds those papers. He wants to destroy them before the for a real other firemen come in and find him. Um, and then she starts telling him about the rebel group, the book people, which was really ingenious.
Uh,
Wow, I really thought that was ingenious, impractical but ingenious. You know, um, uh, uh, and it reminded me a lot of the Dark Ages. And the Dark Ages, you could die for owning the Bible. Only the Catholic Church was allowed to have Bibles. If you were caught with it, you would die horribly. Um, so what the Protestants did was they would take Bibles and then they would tear pages out and then read them, study them, and then they would pass the pages on individually to another family. So I mean, you were looking for a thick book like this where you only were passing around paper, just verses. And I thought that was pretty cool because it's reminding me of here with the way the book people were like you couldn't have a book, you couldn't keep a book. So what you did was you memorized the book. You memorized the contents of a book.
yeah.
So if I walked up to you and you were you're Frankenstein, I could sit there and say, tell me Frankenstein, and then you would basically you became an audio book. That's really what it was. You became an audio book, a living piece of history. You would turn around and talk and because you have memorized the book. Everybody memorized a book to keep, and that's how they kept the books alive until there was a time and place where they could go ahead and rewrite them when they were allowed to reprint them. But I thought that was actually rather genius. Is he still there? Uh,
Oh,
yeah, I'm here.
yeah.
You hear me?
Yeah. I'm still here. I was just having a little bit of hiccup here, but
Okay.
I don't know if I'm coming through okay. Um, that's another movie that this reminded me of. Have you seen the movie Book of Eli?
Yes, yes.
That's another movie where books no longer existed because everything got destroyed in the
Dystopian.
apocalypse.
Yes, and he's protecting the one book. Um, yeah, that's right. Um, he, in this one though, I mean, we see the people.
There
They're
you go.
they have it on. They almost have it like audio, like the audio is telling them the story, and then they're speaking into the audio because once the book people, once the person who memorized the book, that's how they kept books alive. They would memorize the books. So there'd be a
Yeah.
group of 50 people. That was a 50-person library. Everybody there had a book that they could memorize, and then when they were starting to die, when they were starting to get old or what have you, they would have a young person come in, and then they themselves would pass on their book on to another person. So to keep the word alive. Um,
Yeah, I was watching it and I like the idea behind it, but realistically, I don't think that's a very good way to keep books.
no, I thought that was rather ambitious, but
Yeah,
but you know what though? Looking back at that, I would sit there and go like, yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, you're talking like imagine trying them to memorize War and Peace.
yeah,
Really, you would need like 10 people for that. Um,
yeah, because that's another thing that happened in the Book of Eli. I mean, spoiler alert for a movie that came out a long while ago. At this point, Eli memorized the Bible, and at the end, he's reading it to someone else so they can write it down and print it again. But
right.
the mind is tricky. I mean, if you and I read the same book, even heck, even watching a movie, both you and I would see things different and remember things differently. So I don't think it would be the same, like word for word, what they're memorizing in their brain to what was actually in the book.
Yeah, yeah, I would like to have seen that for the first time. I would like to see that how they did it. Like they had the recorders, and they were speaking into the recorders, or either that, or they were listening to the book and they were repeating it to themselves to memorize it. But just the fact that you get that many people to memorize books like that, I mean, you might get away with one person being able to do that on a medium length book, like Montag. He learned an Edgar Allan Poe book. He memorized that. That was his book. So if you wanted to hear Edgar Allan Poe, you walk up to Montag, and then he would sit there and you would sit there and say Poe, and then he would start reciting the book back to you. I personally think it would probably easier to rewrite the books or actually smuggle the books out to the woods, and to bury it out there. And we saw how the government, after Montag, before that happens, Montag gets called to one last call. He's going to quit the fire department, and so he tells Beatty that I've had enough. And Beatty says, "Well, all right. Well, you got to come with us on one last call. This will be your last call." And so he acknowledges that, okay. And then it's none other than his house. It's Montag's house. And so
and you can see Montag sweating bullets as they're going through his neighborhood. It's like, and they stop by his house, and he's like, "Oh, wait a minute, that's my house."
He had to know Linda was the one that turned him in. He had to know.
Yeah.
So they go inside there, and he's had a suspicion about it for a while now. And so he sends Beatty in, and he sends Montag in there to find the books. And sure enough, they find them. And Beatty's saying there, he says, you've basically tossed your whole life away. You don't know what you were doing. It was stupid, and he's burning the books in front of him, and then Montag snaps. And I think Beatty was giving him a chance to save himself by giving him the flamethrowers. Like, if you do this, we might not be able to save you as a fireman, but at least we can do is save your life. I do think that, so you got to burn the books yourself. So I could actually sit there and tell you that. I could tell, whoever it is that, yes, we did catch him with books, but he was down with burning them once, because he said that. He commented on that during the book collector's house. He says, there's always one fireman that always wants to take one book with him. It happens to everybody. It happened to Beatty. It happened to him. He's tempted to take books with him, but you couldn't do it. You had to overcome that. It's not. He sort of had compassion for Montag for that regard. He's like, look, I know you're tempted to do this, but you just can't do it. But when he finds out, then his demeanor turns a little cruel. He's like, I'm going to make you burn your own books. I'm making you do this. You're going to do it yourself. And Montag, he says, well, you know what? I got a better idea. I got something.
Bad idea giving me the flamethrower there, buddy.
I think I'm the last guy you want to give the flamethrower to.
Yeah.
And so Montag, because his captain draws a firearm on him, he's gonna kill him. And then Montag says, you know what? I'm faster on the draw.
Yeah.
And he torches his captain. He torches.
That's the one and only time we see a gun. I don't think the regular firemen carry guns. I think only the chief does.
I think the captain carried that because he knew this was going to be Montag's last one. I wasn't sure if they were going to arrest him or they were just going to kill him afterwards. You got the impression that they were going to kill him. Yeah, you got the impression when he saw him bring out the gun like that, and we're like, yeah, he never had a chance. They were just going to put out the fire, burn his books, put out the fire, and then kill him. But he was a little bit quicker, and he turned the flamethrower on Beatty and fired him up alive.
And then
barbecue
time.
And yes, and then what they did was, this was straight out of The Running Man. This was the theme here was straight out of The Running Man. Montag runs and he escapes. He gets to the rebels. Sounds familiar? And then state TV says that they've cornered Montag, and they're after him. He's wanted for murder, and the government has found him. and then they shoot down an innocent man in his place, make it so that
Yeah.
they're playing Montag. Like
He kind of looks like Montag. Sure, let's just kill this guy. Whatever.
they did the same thing in The Running Man, which is another
Yeah.
movie that was very much like this too. The novella is more powerful than the movie, but that's the same thing they did in The Running Man. They faked the death. Ben Richards is we killed Ben Richards, so there we go.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before, technology has gotten to the point where now news media and even people online can legit do that. They could alter video. They can alter a person's face to look like someone else. So they can cover up whatever they damn well please, and unless you have a software that's able to analyze the video and give you the separate stuff from screen and everything, if you saw something on TV, you would totally buy it. I see a couple of random video shorts on this platform that have like I don't know, a strange creature discovered on cloud, and someone like CGI'd a whale there. So you could do it nowadays willy nilly.
um, the end of the movie, basically the end of the movie. Then we'll talk about the cast and crew
Yeah.
real quick. The end of the movie shows Montag. He is memorizing a book, uh, Tales of Mystery and Imagination by Edgar Allan Poe, and he in turn becomes one of the book people,
Yeah.
and that's how the movie ends.
Is,
Uh,
is this a happy ending? Because Montag, when his wife has her friends over, he calls everyone zombies. You're all zombies. You're
yeah,
just in front of your television and doing what this world tells you. But they're just shambling along as zombies themselves, reciting the book over and over and over again. So, is this a happy ending for Montag, or is this kind of like a different kind of hell?
I think it was a fresh start for him. I definitely think it's a fresh start. You didn't really get the impression that the government really was looking for him out. They actually sort of almost did him a favor,
Yeah,
sitting there saying that they killed him. And now he'd probably be able to maneuver around a little bit more. Now that everybody thinks that he's dead, nobody would be looking for him per se.
true.
Like if they saw him, they wouldn't say there. Oh, there's Montag. They wouldn't think that because they saw him die.
And
Um,
again, we're seeing this nowadays. These people don't have that very long, memory span. Like the video that goes viral is forgotten a couple of days afterward. The same thing would be with Montag. People would
mhm,
legit forget who Montag even was.
yeah, because it was just they come up with something else to distract.
Yep,
Um, Kevin says here sometimes I get a bit mixed up on the plots of Fahrenheit 451, Brave New World, by Huxley,
1984.
and
Yeah,
1984. It's been a while since I've read those books, and they are all similar in many ways. Um, yeah, yeah, they really are, and that makes me want to go back there and revisit those books as well. Um,
yeah. Even again, talking about this movie clearly influenced a whole bunch of different movies because there's especially Equilibrium. V for Vendetta has a lot of elements that are very similar to this movie.
Logan's Run,
Logan's Run.
1984 with John Hurt, which was really
Even
funny. I found that ironic. I found that really ironic that John Hurt did 1984, and then he bounced down and he came back and he did V for Vendetta as the
yeah,
as the High Chancellor. I thought that
yeah,
was really
yeah,
interesting. I thought that was an interesting choice that he made.
yeah. This movie is also again kind of prophetic, and there's a lot of things that this was the possible future that you're seeing nowadays. It also reminded me not the same type of movie, but have you seen a movie called Network?
Oh, Peter Finch, yes.
Yes, that movie also predicted a lot of things that we're seeing nowadays with
Yeah.
news anchors and the news media. So, a lot of people should really pay more attention to these older movies because you could see what could cautionary tales is what I like to reference them as.
Yeah, sometimes Hollywood will it actually sort of defeats itself by putting out like a really good movie. It really does. It sits there and it comes out there and it puts a movie out like this out there, and it's a well-made film. Like I said, Francis Truffaut was a tremendous director. He died much too young. This movie really didn't do that well for the box office as far as worldwide. It did really well in France. Tickets must have been super cheap back then too.
Yeah.
I'm looking here. I'm looking here. It says that they sold over almost 800,000 tickets to that movie, but they didn't make its money back. So people, the movies must have been like a quarter or 50 cents a piece. Um,
Do you do you
you know,
have the do you have
Nick,
the budget numbers on this one? Because I'd be curious to know how much went to the movie and how much went into the book budget. Because my goodness, they got a lot of books in this movie.
they really did. Let's see. It says the budget for this movie was $1.5 million, and it made $1 million back at the box office, mostly France.
Ew.
Mostly France.
Yeah.
So e- e- yeah, the cast and crew, like again, Julie, you had Cyril Cusack, you had Oscar Werner, Julie Christie, all really fine actors. Um, Nicholas Rogue did the cinematography for this movie. Nicholas Rogue has become a fine director on his own right. He directed a lot of fine films, including Performance with David Bowie, or I think with Mick Jagger. He did a movie called Walkabout. Uh,
Okay.
uh, and then a movie he did with David Bowie, The Man Who Fell to Earth,
That's
and
a good one.
he also did The Witches with Angelica Houston.
Another good one. My goodness.
The score of the music, the score of the movie was done by Bernard Herrmann, who won an Oscar. He was Oscar-winning composer, and he also worked with a lot of lesser-known composers to get their music in the movies. So you have that. Of course, Ray Bradbury was one
Huh?
of the most premier writers in science fiction. When you mention science fiction, American science fiction, you can't mention it without mentioning Ray Bradbury as being in the top five. You just can't do it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, this movie had a really strong pedigree about it, and it was remade in 2018 with Michael B. Jordan and Michael Shannon, except that they changed the source material. They did things, and it was not well received. And that was one of the biggest criticisms was the fact that the performances were good, but the source material was ignored. And it's not a Fahrenheit 451 movie without the source material.
Yeah. When
So,
you
they did not
suggest that
do
we see this one, and you mentioned the original or the remake, and I was like, wait, there's a remake of this one because I honestly didn't wasn't aware this got
no,
remade.
nope, it came and went really fast. It did not do very well at the box office. Even though Michael B. Jordan had did it and he had started it, and he'd been known by because he had done I want to say he had done the first Creed by then, so his name was out there, and of course Michael Shannon's name's out there, but the public that was not interested in it. The public's
Yeah.
it's hard to get it's hard to get the public outraged now. I mean, in order to raise awareness. I saw something today that really sort of bothers me, and I'm thinking about how to talk about this. I see there's a director that's going to make a movie about Benito Mussolini, and I think he wants to make it sort of like a Baz Luhrmann movie. He wants to make it like a Moulin Rouge or a Romeo and Juliet, really real poppy, and make it into like a modern musical or what have you. I cannot disagree with that more. I cannot disagree with that sort of framing. If you want to do that with a non-murderous dictator who was a father of fascism, if you want to do that with just about anybody else, okay. You want to do that about an American president, or you want to do that about a French president, or you want to do that about, but to do it about the man who caused millions, I mean, millions of deaths, I don't understand how you can make light of him at all and put him into any sort of a musical. It's not daring. It's not daring. It's insulting. Is what it is. It's a
What was
subject
that?
matter. It's a subject matter that needs to be treated with respect.
It's
Like
like that movie. What was that movie called? The one that had Hitler like an imaginary friend. Jojo
oh,
Rabbit,
Jojo
I think it
Rabbit.
was called.
right.
Yeah, that
But
had that had Hitler as
Jojo
the
Rabbit had a lot. It's not. It's not a. It's not a. It's dark. It's not a fluff movie at all. He does show, he does show the results of the war. He does that. Same thing with the Tin Drum. Another weird World War II movie. He did it with that. I yeah, mm, I'm just really surprised by that. I'm like trying to figure out like how do you address that? Why would you make, there's so many different characters in life that you could do that on. If you want to make an opera or a musical about, you can. But Mussolini, I mean, Mussolini was responsible for hundreds of thousands of deaths of his own countrymen. Much less
yeah
much less the innocents. And why are we making a movie about him and putting it, like now, if you wanted to do a straight biography and show him when he was growing up to where he turned, I'm okay with that. By all means, I wish that movie would be made. It needs to be made. But if you're going to sit
yeah
there and put poppy music to it and dance numbers or whatever, that's insulting. That's not right.
yeah.
It's,
It's the way of movie nowadays. Either they're quirky for being quirky, or someone's just like, I'm gonna do something offensive just to get a little bit of notoriety.
Yeah, it's just not right. You know, it's I it's just I'm just thinking your talent is being wasted, for something like that. I mean,
Yeah,
I mean, if you want to do, I mean, I'm all about him doing a Mussolini movie because he's got skills. He can tell a great story. I just have a problem with that part. And in today's world, I just don't think I don't think it's a time and a place.
yeah,
Maybe you could have got away with that in the 70s or maybe the 80s, but now today's world, the way it is, I just really question the thought behind it.
yeah. It's not. It
Uh,
definitely doesn't sound like it's a movie for us. I did want to ask you something.
sure.
Based on the ending of this, I am going to ask the man well known for asking 8 questions a question.
Good question.
If you were stuck in this world, but you were about to become one of the bug people, what book would you memorize for the rest of your life?
Wow. Wow. All right. I would memorize Stephen Ambrose's D-Day book. He wrote a book about the D-Day on June 6th, 1942. And he wrote a lot of great books. Stephen Ambrose, he wrote a lot of great books. He wrote books on the American Civil War. He's one of the greatest wartime novelists ever, historians ever. Yeah, I would memorize D-Day.
Nice, good one.
What would you memorize?
Well, if it hasn't already been picked, I would go with the very first book I read myself, and again, well, I related a lot with Montag as he was trying to read the words. White Fang. White Fang
Hmm,
is the book that I would memorize because I love that book, and I love every movie adaptation that they've made. Some of them are hit or miss, but White Fang. And if White Fang is already taken, I'll be just that weird guy that picks H.P. Lovecraft just to be, just to stand out and be weird. But
sure,
I would go with
sure.
White Fang, and if it's not already taken, something by H.P. Lovecraft.
That's cool. They made a TV series out of White Fang and it ran for a year.
Yeah,
I got 18 episodes out of that. I found it at the library. I think I didn't have the
if
whole
it's is that
season.
the one with baby Carl Urban?
I think you're right. 17 has 17 episodes, and
Okay, that's
yeah,
a different.
this one here has starred Jamie Wolvett from Unforgiven. He did
Okay,
Unforgiven.
It looks like it's a different cover because I also have a DVD set that I bought at a flea market that also says it has 17 episodes, but the selling point in that version is Carl Urban. It's like
Oh, okay.
starring Carl Urban. So
Um,
I don't know if maybe it's a different series.
see, see. Yeah, one has 9. The first one has 9 adventures, and the second one has 8. So I have 17 of the 25. They came in this case right here.
Okay.
This was actually from Echo Bridge. So I'm wondering if this was a Dollar Tree sometime or one time. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Um,
Yeah, I like the Disney adaptation that they did. That one's a little bit more not as faithful to the book, but the Disney one was pretty good.
uh, all right, let me take a look at here.
Yep.
Holy cow, we got time to tell us what's going on your channel this week.
Oh, well, I'm trying to catch up. I do have on Friday. I was editing a couple of videos and I'm uploading them as much as I can. So I got 2 DVD haul videos already done, waiting to be uploaded. I got 2 DVD haul videos waiting to be recorded, so I can start editing. And I'm still going jointly with what we're doing here. Action April is also being showcased on my channel. I just uploaded yesterday a review for Dread, which is a movie I freaking love, also starring Carl Urban.
Um,
So I'm gonna do Dread. I'm gonna do RoboCop, Terminator, and a bonus episode somewhere down the line.
and of course, next Sunday here on the Midnight Society, we are
That's right.
concluding Action April with Kill Zone 2. Hell to the yes! I
Yes.
cannot wait to chew that up. To get into that, that stars Tony Jaa and Wu Jing from Wolf Warrior, and along with Tony Jaa. That is a badass movie. That is a fantastic movie, action packed, super fun to watch, crazy ass fight scenes. Has nothing to do with the first Kill Zone.
No.
Has nothing to do with the first one, no, because um, but we're that's how we're gonna end our Action April with, and right before that at 6 p.m. on Eastern time, uh, me and Cadaver Club and Mary Wilson, the Last of Us IFC nights, we will be watching and discussing Swallow, starring Haley Bennett.
That's a good one.
I cannot wait for that.
Man,
Um,
I really wish I could beef up my IFC collection because I think I mentioned I only got like 4 releases,
You got to
but
buff
they're
it up,
super hard
man.
to find.
Beef that up, man. You beef it up. The Hamilton Books a great place to go for Hamilton Books is a really good place. Just if you could have them sent to a friend in San Diego,
Yeah, yeah,
you have them sent there, so you don't have to pay the shipping cost to Mexico, and then go pick them up. Man, you can get a lot of good deals there. A lot of their movies are under $5, $5
Ooh,
and under.
okay.
Yeah, a lot of ton of IFC movies.
Yeah, because much
Um,
like a lot of people in the community, I'm a frugal collector. I can
Hell
only get
yeah,
the
me
movies if I
too.
find them cheap.
Me too. That's why I was like when I did my drawing for horror with Haas's contest. I thought I commented on because he's very much like us. He's very frugal and we're always looking for a great deal. So I get it.
Yeah.
Um,
What do
my
you have up set up for next week, Pat?
Well, I had an interview with Rachel Deshane for Tuesday, but I think 2 things are going to happen. One, I have a cold. I'm
Oh,
sure you probably hear it in my voice. I'm not even so sure I'm going to even make it Tuesday,
okay.
which is a good thing because she is up for a singing a national anthem, and I think I'm going to probably end up resting my voice on Tuesday and just telling her to do that show. Hell yeah, do the sing the national anthem. Yeah, do that. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so we might go ahead and reschedule that. That might be a mutual reschedule. And then, but before that, then after that, come Wednesday, we have uh, uh, Pat Bradley here will be with us on Wednesday on 8 o'clock. And then on the 27th, Thursday, we have Caitlin Clark Dargy will be with us at 8 p.m. I hope you guys all come out for that. If you guys can come out for one show, I mean, I want you to come out for all of them, and some of you will. But I really want you to come out to support the one on Thursday with Caitlin. She's got a story to tell, and I think it's going to be really remarkable. Um, she reminds me of another actress that we found and talked to named Meredith Muller. And she's got that same spirit and the same drive that Meredith has. And, she's fearless, which I really, really admire. So she's going to come out on the 27th. And then on the 28th, we have author Alan Alberson will be here. Alan Alberson will be here with us on the 28th. So, yeah, this could be a lot of fun. The good people.
A lot of good interviews this month, and I think you're doing better this month than last month. This month, I think you only had one no show.
Yeah, numbers are down though. Numbers are down from this month from last month, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll get it cracking.
Did you see? Did you see that the Flashpoint thing got 500 views? That's pretty awesome.
I think it's almost up to 700 now.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, people seem to like the action and adventure. I hope that we get those kind of numbers for this show. I hope that we actually do. I would be encouraged to see this video here tonight. I would be very encouraged to see this video get over 100 views. I really like to see people share this one out too. And then better yet, to anybody who wants to talk about this movie, if you guys cover it on your page, please let me know so I can be in your chat when you do it. I will definitely support you if you want to talk about this movie on your channel. I will definitely support it. I will push it. I will promote it. I will do whatever it takes that you need to get people out there. I think it's an important movie, and I want to thank you guys all for coming out and hanging out with us tonight.
Do you know where one can find that? Because I bought this DVD a while back, but it has zero special features, not even a freaking trailer. So I don't know if this one's been released on Blu-ray or if it's streaming somewhere.
It is streaming somewhere, and I will put the link down below. I found someone on Vimeo had it out, and I watched it on Vimeo for free. So I will put that link. Yes, I will put that link out there. Why I look for a copy of my own. I think I have the modern version, the new version, but I didn't want to cover that one. I wanted to cover this one.
I didn't even know it existed.
So yes, I definitely want to do that. We might come back and revisit the other one later, but this is the one that I wanted to talk about today, the one from 1966. All right, boys and girls, thanks so much for rolling up with us. You guys were awesome tonight. I appreciate it. We'll see you next week for Killzone 2. Hell yeah, I can't wait for that. And then after that, there's going to be Mayhem. And what are we doing for the first Mayhem? Did you pick it out?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, Professor McElroy is losing his damn mind. I was going to send you a list of movies, but I think we did mention we were going to do the Jurassic games. So I guess I just had that idea stuck on this whole noggin.
Yes, Jurassic games on May 7th. I'm down with that. I'm so down with that. Jurassic games on May 7th. That's going to be fun. That will be a lot. Yeah. Hell yes. So keep it rolling here on the Midnight Society. We are picking up steam. We want to thank our friend Katie from Popping the Popcorn for coming out and hanging out with us. Hopefully, thank you, Katie. Yeah. And then, woohoo. We will talk to you guys. We'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for coming out, and peace.
Peace.